Good evening, and welcome to the Valleywise Health Foundation's Night of Heroes. This is our 4th annual Night of Heroes, and we're so excited that you've joined us. You're going to meet an amazing family tonight. Stephanie and Christian Nielsen were living in Mesa with their 4 young children in 2008 when an accident changed their lives forever. A mommy blogger with a national following, Stephanie and her husband were well known and loved by many people. Telling stories like these is a labor of love, and we couldn't do it without all of our community partners. We want to thank our presenting sponsors of tonight's event, Kitchell, District Medical Group, Epic, and Vizient, and all of our other wonderful sponsors who made tonight's event possible. Now let me introduce to you a friend of Valleywise Health Foundation, our auctioneer tonight, Letitia Fry.
Thanks, Carrie. Hey everybody, it's Letitia Fry, your auctioneer, and although I am not actually auctioning any items tonight, I will be guiding you through a 100% tax-deductible give that you can be a part of, also helping you understand just how those gifts will impact not only those treated, but those that work at Arizona Burn Center and bringing them to the new heights, basically, is what we're going to talk about. But more importantly right now, how do you enjoy this the best way possible? Well, for one, if you're at a watch party, please do thank your host for us. Maybe you're all gathered around a PC still at work, laptop, wherever you are. This is lovingly referred to as a 2-device event. That means you actually watch on one and you give on another. So you want to make sure you're on your cell phone to give. Watch it eardropped in a television, watch it on your PC or laptop, and be on that cell phone. How do you do it? Go to ValleywiseHero.org and simply click Donate Now. That's right, ValleywiseHero.org. We also have made it even easier on that cell phone. You can simply text the words Valleywise Hero to 44321. Again, Valleywise Hero to 44321. And you'll notice below me on the screen is also a helpline for anyone that's having technical, a little bit of difficulty. We're here to help you through that. But most importantly, we are just thrilled that you are here to be a part of our Night of Heroes. So let's get ready to listen and learn, and thank you in advance for supporting Valleywise Health. Carrie?
Tonight you're going to meet some of the healthcare heroes who helped this couple recover from their injuries and begin the long process of returning home to their children. You're going to hear from Dr. Kevin Foster, Director of the Arizona Burn Center at Valleywise, and Dr. Sal Lettieri, Chair Emeritus of Plastic Surgery at Valleywise Health. Dr. Lettieri is also both a Valleywise Health and Mayo Clinic faculty member. They are just 2 of the doctors who performed as many as 50 surgeries on these 2 burn survivors, from the time they arrived at the Arizona Burn Center at Valleywise Health to the day they went home and beyond. The Nielsens have since relocated to North Carolina to be closer to Christian's job, and they have been kind enough to join us remotely from their home there. We do want to warn you that some of the images in the videos are tough to see, but they show the true miracle and process of healing. We begin tonight's show with a special welcome from the President and CEO of Valleywise Health, Steve Purvis.
Thanks, Carrie. Good evening, everyone. I'm honored to welcome you tonight on behalf of more than 4,000 committed healthcare professionals of Valleywise Health who work tirelessly to fulfill the vital mission entrusted to us. For those of you watching from across the country, as far as North Carolina, Florida, Utah, and New York, Valleywise Health is our community's public teaching hospital and safety net system of care serving Maricopa County, Arizona, and the metropolitan area of Phoenix, commonly referred to as the Valley of the Sun. For nearly 150 years, our hospitals and clinics have addressed the most critical community health needs for the people of Arizona. We are very proud to serve as one of America's essential hospitals, caring for our community's most vulnerable, and for our recent recognition as an IBM Watson Health Top 100 hospital. We have a proud history as an academic medical center with a Level 1 trauma center, serving both adults and children, and one of the oldest and largest physician training programs in Arizona. Valleywise Health also provides primary and behavioral health care services for thousands of individuals in need throughout the region. And as has been our mission for over 150 years, no one is ever turned away. Tonight, you will hear the inspiring story of hope, inspiration, and perseverance from Stephanie and Christian Nielsen, and from the amazing professionals at the Arizona Burn Center, one of Valleywise Health's preeminent centers of excellence and one of the world's largest and most comprehensive. These professionals and their patients overcome seemingly impossible obstacles to the healing process and are heroes in the truest sense of the word. Stephanie and Christian Nielsen's story has inspired millions around the world, and we are especially honored to share their behind-the-scenes journey with you tonight. You'll meet Deb Pope, Christy Morris, and Derek Murray, physical and occupational therapists who encouraged the first steps on the Nielsen's journey back home. You'll also hear how Stephanie and Christian's faith, love, and family inspired and encouraged them too. Dr. Kevin Foster and Dr. Sal Lettieri will share their memories of treating the Nielsens more than 13 years ago and pay tribute to their colleague and dear friend, the late Dr. Dan Caruso, who chaired the Valleywise Health Department of Surgery for many, many years. Finally, thank you to the Valleywise Health Foundation staff, board of directors, and many volunteers for events like tonight, which allow us to share inspiring patient stories and shine a light on the healthcare heroes behind the scenes. Your time, gifts, and support means so much as we work to complete a new world-class, state-of-the-art burn center, serving the Southwest for generations to come. Our work together, lifted by community support from people like you, make the Valleywise Health mission possible. Exceptional care, without exception, every patient, every time. Now let's watch the Nielsen story unfold, and you will see that there are heroes all around us.
Flying has been a part of my life for as long as I can remember. When I was a little boy, I loved birds and winged animals. And I wanted to fly like them. I wanted to see the earth and experience life like they did. I remember the first time I flew, I had control of the airplane. It was surreal. It's thrilling and it's exciting, and it commands all of your attention and respect.
When my dad was 16, his father was in an airplane crash and was killed. You know, you never think something like that's gonna happen to you. That day, I said, oh, I'm gonna go with Christian and Doug, his friend and instructor, just to the ranch, just for a day trip. My mom, she said, you be really careful, you know. You come home or something like that. And I was like, yeah, of course we will. We always do. Looking back now, I believe that it was instinct. A mother's instinct.
Stephanie and I, our life at that time was just perfect. I had a good job. I was flying. Our children were wonderful and beautiful and well-behaved, and our life was really happy. We had planned this trip with the three of us, Stephanie and me and my former flight instructor, Doug, to go to the ranch in New Mexico and just spend the day together.
We woke up and dropped the 4 kids off at his parents' house. His mom watched the kids. And I left my home, and I was never going back to that house. And so we got to the ranch, we rode 4-wheelers around, and then we flew to St. John's, Arizona, where we were gonna refuel. And called the kids from the gas station and said, I'll see you soon.
The wing tanks were full of fuel. The 3 of us did our pre-flight check and climbed in and took off.
I was sitting in the back, And then I remember being on the runway longer than usual. And then we got up, and I could tell very quickly something was really wrong. Doug and Christian were very frantic, talking very loudly and fast. And I just remember just sitting back in my chair, and I thought, this is how it ends? I don't want to die. And I remember closing my eyes, and I could see my kids. And I put my head in my lap, and I just kind of braced for impact, because at that point, I knew we were going down.
Doug had taken control of the airplane, and I thought maybe we were going to possibly land on this residential road, and we hit these power lines and crashed into this person's front yard, basically, with a big pile of firewood, which was now doused in our newly fueled airplane fuel and burning. When I woke up, I was in a burning cockpit. Fire was coming up and licking my legs, and smoke was starting to fill the cabin. It was hard to breathe, and this wood pile and a fence was obstructing our door opening. I was only able to get it open, it seemed like, just enough to get my head through. And as soon as I opened it, fire was coming through. I, beckoned to Stephanie to follow me, but somehow I got out that door and through the fire, and probably sustained all of my injuries then. When I went around the other side, Doug's side of the airplane was even worse, and I realized I couldn't get over there. And I looked back to see Stephanie, and I couldn't see her. And now I thought, oh no, am I the only one out of the airplane? The gravity of that was now, I was starting to feel that, and I just collapsed where I was. And I thought that all is lost.
I woke up, and the airplane was on fire, and I didn't see anybody in the seats in front of me. I could smell burning flesh. I knew that I was burning to death. And my door wouldn't open up, and I panicked. I screamed really loud. I was like, I'm stuck, someone help me. These flames just engulfing me. And it was so painful. And then I just felt like it can't be much longer now. And then you'll be gone. You'll be dead. And the second that I gave into that thought, I feel like energy and power from the other side. I feel like I felt my grandmother, her presence very strong. And somehow I was able to get my seatbelt off, the door open, and I rolled and rolled and rolled until I physically couldn't roll anymore. And I rolled under this beautiful tree, and I watched the leaves just sway in the wind. And then I felt like all of a sudden there was a giant release, and I could feel all of the pain. I was all of a sudden back. People were coming, and I remember one man who came and grabbed my head and just held me. And he looked at me and said, "You're gonna be fine. You're gonna make it." And I believed him.
The first person who came to me, I asked him, "Is there anybody else in the plane?" And he said, I see somebody over there, and I see somebody over there. And I was so relieved that they were out, because I didn't know. I hadn't seen with my own eyes. 3 separate ambulances, 3 separate life flight helicopters showed up and all converged on this scene in this small town. And 1, 2, 3, we were air evacuated to the Arizona Burn Center.
Wow. My heart beats really quickly as I watch that video. And I have to imagine that for someone going through an accident like that, time must have felt very much like it was standing still. I'm going to welcome Stephanie and Christian Nielsen to Night of Heroes now. Stephanie, Christian, first of all, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much for telling that story. Does it ever get any easier to tell?
Not really. I mean, it's a familiar story, but we're happy to retell it because it does have a happy ending, believe it or not.
Stephanie, you talk about a man holding your head. You talk about rolling underneath a tree and looking up and seeing the leaves on the tree, which to me seems timeless, and that a man was holding your head and telling you you were going to be okay and that you believed him. Are you happy that you believed him? And do you know who that man is? Did you ever find him?
I've never met him. I still to this day, I don't know who he is. And I did believe him, and I think that's what kind of helped me focus back on to where I was and what I needed to do. I think I really felt like he was an angel. I thought he was. I thought he was just this angel that had come and helped me and told me that I was going to be okay. And yeah, I believed him, and he was right.
He was. Christian, as this accident was happening, as it was unfolding, you talked about looking out, about trying to do everything you could to avoid it. And just 20 minutes earlier, you were refueling and calling your children and telling them you'd be home soon. How long did that period of time seem to you? Was it as endless as what Stephanie describes going through? What was that like for you?
Yeah, it seemed like an eternity. It ended up being about 45 minutes or so. It was less than an hour before EMTs arrived to, attend to these 3 airplane crash survivors. But time kind of went by very slowly. Acute burn trauma is something that it's just horribly destructive to your body, but also plays with your mind as well. And we were and possibly the worst part is that we were separated from each other at the crash site, and I didn't lay eyes on Stephanie until months later after waking up from a coma.
Yeah, we relied heavily on people who showed up on the crash scene to tell us, your husband's across the street, or, I see your wife over there. And it was just amazing how people went into action. Just these people in these neighborhoods just came out and took care of us. It was amazing and beautiful.
You were more than 100 miles from your home, but you were in a city that was very much like your own, probably felt like home. I have no doubt that many of the people who came to your rescue, so to speak, actually knew who you were, knew members of your family. What was that like, and what is it like to have that kind of familial feeling and I guess feeling of safety, if you will?
That's one of the nice things about having a very large family. So as it was that day, the place where we had chosen to refuel and the site of our accident actually happened to be the place where my aunt and uncle lived. And as soon as the first people started talking and assessing the situation, and we were sending couriers between Stephanie and me, I finally asked one of them, I said, "Hey, do you know my aunt and uncle?" And it's a small town. And he said, yes, I definitely know them. I said, "Can you get in touch with them and let them know that we're here?" And within minutes, literally within minutes of our horrific accident, we had family members there attending to us and kind of bridging, not only physically ministering to us, but also bridging the gap between, our children and my my parents who were taking care of our kids at the time, and coordinating that we were coming. We'd had this accident, and the big family network of support sprung into action.
It is a small world indeed. Stephanie, what was it like when you said you finally felt something? You were in shock for a while, and then you realized the pain you were in. How did you make it through those 45 minutes? Sounds like an eternity.
Yeah, and I think it was those people, that community that we landed in. It was a Saturday afternoon, and they were out mowing their lawns and taking care of their gardens, and then this just happened, and then people just came. And I remember some of the women there were holding blankets kind of to protect us, and just from all the onlookers, privacy, and it happened to be that we were both members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. We had the same religion, so we had prayer together, and it felt like, it was long and very, very painful, but I felt very protected. I felt very taken care of and assured that things were gonna be okay.
Yeah, and as it turns out, it was really just the beginning. We're going to take a look now at what happened after that long 45 minutes when the ambulances finally arrived and took you to the Arizona Burn Center.
When Stephanie and Christian came in, Christian, I know, had about 40%-ish burn, and it was on his trunk, and that was the biggest issue because he had the spinal fracture. Stephanie, of course, was in a medically induced coma. She was bandaged from head to toe.
Christian had trauma injuries that included his torso. He had facial injuries. He had a severe ear burn. When I first saw Stephanie, I walked in the room and I saw significant facial burns, significant shoulder and trunk burns. Her arms were burned all the way from shoulder to fingertips. She had significant burns on her back, including her scapula and her neck.
My first interaction with them was taking care of them in the operating room. The operations are big, the room is hot, it's busy, it's loud. It is overwhelming to be in the burn room. For patients with large placental burns, we tend to keep them in drug-induced comas, and sometimes that's 2 or 3 or even 4 months. And quite frankly, that's okay. Nobody needs to remember what we do to these patients because it is terribly painful. Now, having said that, ultimately our goal is to get people back to where they were before.
I was in a coma for 5 weeks, and I remember asking what the date was and how long it had been and where Stephanie was, where Doug was. But I was assured that I was in the best place for my injuries and that Stephanie was in the room next door and that she was being cared for. And I also learned that Doug had passed away. He had died from his injuries. I asked about Stephanie, and they said that she's very sick and that she had been burned more than 80% of her body and that her whole face had burned off. And it was uncertain what her outcome would be. Our perfect life was destroyed. And also our children, our families felt like the best thing to do would be to ship them up to Utah, while Stephanie and I just tried to cling to life and to each other and to make our way back.
Christian's first desire was, of course, to get immediately to Stephanie's bed, which he couldn't do, and was highly frustrating for him not to be able to do that. And I had to have the conversation with him that, you can only do so much, and you have to be there for Stephanie, so you have to take care of you.
The therapist knew what my motivation was, which was Stephanie. When I came into her room for the first time, She was completely mummified. The only thing that I recognized on her were her painted toenails. And I could touch my wrapped hands, I could touch her wrapped hands. And every day I would go in there and we would pray together, and I felt a connection with her there.
Patients, when they're ventilated and they're medicated and they're not awake, they talk to us through the monitors. And when he walked in and he sat down at her bed and took her hand, her numbers came down. You know, that was just beautiful. She knew he was there.
Stephanie got really sick, and it was touch and go there for a while. And I remember talking to somebody in the family about the efforts that they were making with prayer and good thoughts. Within just a couple of days, things really turned around. You know, I've been in this business for a long time, and things don't turn around like that very often. It is a overwhelming memory from the time that the Nielsen's were here.
I woke up and I looked at the whiteboard and it said my name on it, and it said November 6th or something. And I remember being like, what? No, it's August. And I couldn't move. I couldn't talk. It was very, very strange and very claustrophobic. And then I remember seeing my mom and my oldest sister, Paige, come in the hospital room. And all of those memories of the actual airplane crash happening came right back to me. I didn't know what to do with those feelings. I didn't even talk to Christian. I didn't even know if he was alive. It was just a very surreal, scary experience. I remember having a dressing change, and I remember looking down at my arms for the first time. They were blotchy and purple and red and swirly, and I remember thinking, I don't want to see anything else. And I didn't ask questions because I didn't want to know the answers. You just do what you got to do and then get out of my room and let me just sob.
It wasn't until maybe months later where they had unwrapped her face, and that was the first time I'd seen her skin. And her face was totally changed, but our bond and our life and our marriage and our relationship was more than skin deep. I still felt the same way about her as I always did.
I had dark hair and freckles. That's not me anymore. If my kids knew what I looked like, they would die, they would freak out. That's just the reality of it. So let's, get me out of here. What do I got to do to get out of here? I wasn't letting the process heal me. I think we have to let the process heal us.
Man, for me, nights were hard. When things slow down in the ICU, you're tired, but you can't sleep, and your mind races with the reality of it all. And it takes a special type of physician, a special type of therapist, a special type of somebody who knows the healing arts to help people through that time.
I was just going through the process, and I had surrounded me a lot of people who were very patient with me, including my husband.
The therapy and the dressing changes and the surgeries, on one hand, it's like hell. When I'm talking about the heavenly experiences, it's those people. We've been through some hard things together.
A burn injury is a lifelong injury, and much of the really important things that happen beyond the acute care and outside of the hospital. And it takes a lot of effort on the part of a lot of professionals to get people back to where they need to be.
heard a lot of testimonials of love in that video, and the first thing I heard, Stephanie, was you talking about how your kids would freak out if they saw you, and yet you didn't want to see yourself. Yet I think as a mom you were more concerned for them, even though you were certainly concerned about yourself. And Christian being so concerned about taking care of you when he can barely walk himself down the hallway of the hospital at the Arizona Burn Center. That is a remarkable story, and thank you again for being so willing to tell it. I have two friends of yours in the studio, Dr. Kevin Foster and Dr. Sal Lettieri, both of whom were instrumental in getting you two out of that state and into the state that you're in today, which is pretty phenomenal because you both look great. Welcome to the studio, both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What is it like for you doctors, Dr. Kevin Foster, to look at these two on the screen after seeing that video? I have no doubt you remember those days well, but you see your patients now 13 years later. How does that feel?
It feels wonderful. It's a miracle. This is why we do what we do.
The pictures of the recovery and of her skin under the compression garments are amazing. And Stephanie said, when I looked down, I didn't recognize my own skin and I didn't want to see anymore. Is that a fairly common reaction from a burn survivor?
It is a very common reaction. And unfortunately, when patients first see themselves, they don't realize that this is not the end. This is just the beginning, and it's not what it's going to look like. And we, of course, know, and we say, oh, this looks beautiful, oh, you look great, and they are thinking, are you kidding me? This looks great? Oh my goodness gracious.
You two were in the hospital for many months, first here and then a hospital closer to your home. Yet most of us would look at your timetable and think that you made a fairly remarkable, fairly quick recovery. Does it seem quick when you look back on it?
No, and I sort of feel like I'm still making that recovery. You know, I think it's an ongoing process that will have to be something maybe for the rest of my life. But I think, you know, the worst part's over. The hard part is over for me.
Yeah. Obviously, regaining all of your functions, learning to walk again in some cases, and getting back those fine motor skills is difficult. But a lot of patients are very concerned, obviously, about the way they look. And I know this is where Dr. Lettieri comes in. When do you meet a patient like Stephanie, and when do you start talking about what it is that she looks like, what it is that she looked like before, and her expectations about what she will look like again one day?
Well, thank you, Carrie. My role in this with Dr. Foster and Dr. Caruso is actually two parts. The first part was during the original injury, when I was called to try to help rearrange some of the tissue and using some of the techniques that we do in plastic surgery to rearrange the tissue and to get her to the point where then we can start looking at some secondary work to do. Our initial goal was to try to take care of her eyes, which we did, and also some other areas to try to minimize the grafting that was necessary. And then we look at what needs to be done later on with the understanding not to burn any bridges with what we did the first time around.
Dr. Foster, you talk about in the video trying to get a patient back to where they were before. Certainly when you have a young mom with 4 kids as your patient and a dad of 4 kids, and you see family arriving in large numbers, both of them from such large families, do you start to get an idea of what that patient, that person was before, truly, before they're able even to talk to you?
Yes, that is definitely part of the experience, and you do get a good feel for patients from their families, and that was especially true with the Nielsen's because there were dozens, almost hundreds of them.
Almost hundreds. You mentioned seeing a reaction, a physical reaction from Stephanie when Christian was able to come into the room. She's unconscious, yet her vital signs appear better. She seems to be happier when he's in the room. Is that also common from someone who's not really medically aware?
It is fairly common to see that, especially with people who have such a strong connection. And I think that there's a lot more that goes on at a deeper unconscious level than we are aware of.
What do you think people need to know most when they see a story like this one? We read headlines like this, unfortunately, all too often. What do you think people out there watching tonight need to know about what a burn patient goes through when they arrive through the doors at the Arizona Burn Center?
Well, most people have no concept of what happens with a serious burn, and that's great. If most people go through their lives and have no idea, then that's fantastic. But this is probably the worst thing that can happen to a human being, and to live through it is one thing. To triumph over it the way the Nelsons have is really something else.
Yeah. How much does it help when a patient or patients have a family like this? They have families sleeping overnight in the room. They have kids making cots and beds on the floor, and a fridge full of drinks, and they have so much family support. How much easier does it make to care for somebody like that, Dr. Lettieri?
Well, for me, for both Stephanie and Christian, I always enjoyed just to be with them. There wasn't much. I guess your sister came sometimes, but it was just mostly Christian and Stephanie, and we would visit. When I talk to patients, and they know that it's on a personal basis, it's having a conversation. So it's like they're visiting a family member too. It happens to be the crazy uncle that happens to do surgery, but it's somebody who can help. But having the tremendous family is very helpful, obviously. So because the aftercare for the work that we did after the discharge from the hospital, that's another process to go through.
You continued to see Stephanie and Christian for some time, didn't you?
Yes, and so my role after they've left is to try to look at what we can do to try to get some function back and restore, also help with relieve some pain. I guess I'm not, you won't mind, her neck is actually her back.
Oh.
So that neck right there, that whole thing that she has was actually from her back, and the entire thing was just resurfaced from her back. And every time I see that, I kind of wish I could do the rest, but the neck is her back, and things like that.
I know.
I don't have to fix her nose, but she brought it up. So.
Stephanie, did you ever think that you'd look at yourself in the mirror and see your back?
Yeah. It's at first, I think now it's like amazing. It's a miracle, and it's fun to like tell my kids and their friends when they come over. It's kind of one of those. Do you want to hear a story? Yeah, a good one.
You got to be careful what you say yes to in the Nielsen household when you agree to hear a story.
That's right.
What did you, as you were starting to regain functionality and interact with the nurses, and in your book you write about having such caring physical therapists and night nurses and what a difference that made. What kind of a difference does it make to have two doctors like this who are so invested in your care? It seems like 24/7.
Yeah, it's everything. And when we were transferred to another hospital, we went there and tried to get, care up there, and we're planning on it. But I wanted these guys. So we came down. Yeah, I just felt like they were my team. They were my guys. I felt like they cared about me. They knew my family. And there's just something special about them. And to this day, they're our heroes. They're our children. We talk about them like they're, supermen, and I still believe that. I'm so grateful for them.
I read your book, Stephanie, and as I read about your recovery, it occurs to me that this entire time Christian was getting up, doing his own physical therapy, putting on a back brace, and driving himself or getting himself to the hospital to visit you. Christian, when you look back, how long did those days seem to be? I can't imagine that those were easy times for you either.
Yeah, it was a big mess, but I was highly focused and highly motivated to not only have Stephanie back and reassemble our family under one roof. That was the perfect amount of motivation to do what needed to be done, but also just having the right people in place to help us get there. I mean, this is two examples of a very large team of people in a very integrated way that used their skill and training on our family.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because these are two members of a team, but I think we have to take a quick minute and talk about another member of the team who unfortunately is not with us today. We have a little video talking about that very special team member, so let's take a look.
Well, I can talk about Dr. Caruso for a long, long time. I had a great professional and personal relationship with Dan Caruso. We worked together for almost 20 years, saw each other almost on a daily basis, and I think we did a lot of pretty good things together.
Dr. Caruso is a special doctor, not only to me, but I think everybody probably feels that same way about Dr. Caruso. There was that professionalism and his expertise, but I also just sensed a lot of compassion. And to some degree that I don't know if I'll be able to measure, he's the reason why we're alive.
So when he passed away, I brought all of our children to his funeral, and I said, this man is a hero of mine. He saved my life. He is an amazing man, and he may be gone, but I have memories and memories of him that live on and on and on and on.
It was one of the greatest relationships in my life, and I miss him every day.
It's a beautiful tribute for one of the doctors that we can't have with us here tonight. Stephanie, I'm going to ask you to just tell me what you think when you see that video and see those pictures of Dr. Caruso.
I have this big lump in my throat when I think about Dr. Caruso because of the legacy that he left, not only the hospital and hundreds of people's lives, but my family and my children. And he, like I said, he will be someone that our family thinks about fondly forever and ever. I love him. I not only, while I was in the hospital, but while I was recovering and living out of the state, he would stay in close touch with me, and I would always go visit the burn center, and he was, the doctor that I was excited to see and give me a big hug. And I love him. I love him.
Christian, what did Dr. Caruso mean to yours and Stephanie's care?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
Tell me what Dr. Caruso meant to yours and Stephanie's care.
Oh, very much the same sentiment. And he was one of the first people I remember meeting after waking up in the Arizona Burn Center. And I remember feeling like there was, I was taking my cue from him, and he was obviously somebody who was skilled, understood what was going on, understood our injuries, and understood that we had a life beyond what I was experiencing in that particular room at that particular time. He had enough foresight and expertise to tell us about that there was a life to be lived and worth living, and that there was a path to recovery, and he knew how to do it, and he was going to throw everything at our family to get us there.
Yeah, help us get there.
Dr. Foster, I feel like every time you and I have spoken about Dr. Caruso, you put yourself in the background and put him in the foreground. Tell me how important he is to patients like Stephanie and Christian, and to anyone who came into the burn center and he cared for.
Right. So when Dr. Caruso was alive, when Dan was alive, he was the center of the burn universe. And when the Nielsen's came in, he mobilized everybody. He mobilized that entire unit. And for that several month period of time, that was our focus, was to take care of the Nielsen's. And somebody once said, failure is not an option. That was absolutely the attitude that he had. And he was a terrific leader, a terrific surgeon, a great doctor, a great person.
Obviously, Dr. Lettieri, you need to get as healthy a patient as you can so that you can help them on their journey after they leave the hospital. What does it mean to have somebody take such good care of this family and people like them?
Well, first of all, what I'll point out is that the Arizona Burn Center, founded by McDonald Wood, who is one of the founding members of the American Burn Association, left a tremendous foundation, tough shoes to fill. Dr. Caruso did that. And what he did was able to bring the Arizona Burn Center into national recognition. He was tireless with working with everybody. You don't want to wake him up in the morning, though, because talking to him in the morning was not right.
Not good early.
No. But at night, anytime you could call him. The other thing that he was tremendous at, he would allow others to work and do things, myself, Dr. Foster, and the foundation that he left behind with the tireless effort for working and caring for patients and optimal outcome, and there was really no give up for him, and also recruiting people to help. And so he would call me, and just like for Stephanie, I'm sorry, Stephanie, I didn't know, I was just called to the room to help. It was just, Sal, come here, I need your help for something. And that's what he was very good at. And he left the foundation now for Dr. Foster to carry this forward for the new burn center, much of which I think Dan actually helped with the foundation of what to put together. So I said it in words, but really words can't begin to touch what he meant to everybody.
What do you think he'd say, Dr. Foster, if he saw at least the framework for the new burn center and the new hospital?
Well, we actually talked about it many times over the years. When he hired me way back in 1999, he actually told me, we're going to have a new burn center in a couple of years. It's 24 years later now. So it is coming to fruition, but he would be very happy with where we're at right now. And this is a realization of his dream. So I'm happy to carry this forward for him.
Oh, I'm glad it's happening. Well, Stephanie and Christian, you obviously became like family to these doctors, and they are to you. But I understand we have a few more Nielsen's, though, because as we mentioned, it is quite a large family, who want to pop on and say hello from all over the globe and in the living room. Let's see, how many Nielsen's can we get in the frame? This is a Zoom call, after all. 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's 5. Hello, Nielsen's. Hello. Nice to meet you all.
Should we introduce who we have here? It will go. Yeah, this is Charlotte, our caboose, and Nicholas here to my left, and Oliver here to my right. And out of state we have Jane. She's out of state working, and our oldest daughter Claire is also out of state on her way out of the country as a missionary for our church.
Hello, it's so nice to meet you all. We're so glad you could join us, and thanks for dressing up for our party.
Of course.
All right, thank you so much. I love seeing the faces on those kids, because if anyone out there has read the book already, the 4 of the Nielsen's are in the book and mentioned, and Nicholas is baby Nicholas for most of it, and there's no Charlotte, so she's a new addition to the family, which is fantastic.
With Charlotte when I wrote the book, so she was kind of we were cooking together.
Yeah, Steph. In fact, the book and the baby came out on the same day. It wasn't planned that way.
Nice release.
It was two labors of love on Stephanie's part.
That is really well done. I mean, as if we thought you hadn't done enough. The book and the baby all on the same day is pretty fantastic. Congratulations and great timing. That's awesome. All right, so we've talked to the doctors. We've met all of the Nielsen's, and you've met 2 very special patients of the Arizona Burn Center. And the difference that these doctors made in their lives is evident to all of you. Now we're going to see a little bit about how you at home tonight can help.
Tonight's so special for the Arizona Burn Center and Valleywise because of you, the heroes, that give us a chance to do more. We have this incredible institution that's been serving our community in Arizona for over 140 years, but there's a lot more that we can do. And the chance for us to really fulfill our vision to transform care to improve community health happens with that philanthropic arm.
The new burn center is going to be state-of-the-art, and it's not just that we're going to have nice rooms and good educational facilities and great research facilities and things like that, but we are really taking patient-centered care, family-centered care, care over a lifetime, and we're translating that into this new burn center. We're actually manipulating the building to help us do what we do even better. And that is truly unique. And when we are finished with this, this is going to be the finest, best burn center in the world.
It's no secret in our industry that our patient needs go out months to years after discharge. And our patients tell us as much. I mean, when they had their last appointment in the clinic, it's like all of a sudden this whole apparatus kind of fades away. And the PTSD support needs and the peer support needs and the community reintegration needs and the physical needs go on for years. And we're hoping that with this model and moving forward that other burn centers will emulate what we're doing in terms of providing aftercare component for burn survivors.
It's been 13 years since we were here as patients. So now to see these renderings of this beautiful new facility that is being built, it just makes me happy that they're getting the facility that they deserve.
After my accident and I started to get better, I think I felt like I wanted to show people just the incredible work that was done to me and to my family. And we are back together because of all of the work that was done. I'm so excited for all of the many people who will be blessed there, who will see miracles there. It's a very sacred place.
The story that you heard was Stephanie's determination to do the best she could with an awful situation, to just maintain your life, to carry your life forward and carry forward the lives of those around you. That was a heroic effort. Her husband had to exert a heroic effort to help her in that effort. So by any definition, they're heroes. Valleywise is important in our lives. It's important to our community. It merits our support. There are many worthy causes that all of us consider to contribute to. But in my case, Valleywise is simply one of the most compelling because of the nature of the work that it provides and the people that it provides it to.
And of course, that is not just our board chair, John Hoops. He is actually once a burn survivor treated at the Arizona Burn Center. I'm Letitia Fry. It's a pleasure to be back with you. What an amazing and compelling story. I know that Christian and Stephanie and all of their family are out there watching. I just want to say on behalf of all of us here in studio, thank you so much for sharing the story. Thank you for Carrie's interview. Just incredible on every single level. I also want to point out that here in studio with us now is none other than Christy Morris. That's right, our very own occupational therapist that works with all the burn center individuals is here. It's pretty much a family environment here, safe social distance in studio. But now let's talk about exactly what it is we're here to do. And that is actually to fund what's going on inside the new Arizona Burn Center. For those of you that know, the building itself is on its way, but there's a lot you need to know about the building they're coming from and the building they're going to. It's amazing to me that they actually are the #1 burn center in the country when they've been working in a fairly disconjointed and somewhat, well, not the most efficient atmosphere that soon will change. So I can only imagine to what heights this entire team will go to next. So let's talk about one of those heights. It has to do with compassionate care. The first level I'm going to talk about here today, I'm going to remind you, you can simply go to valleywise.org, press donate now, or you can text Valleywise Hero to 44321. Again, 44321. But I want to tell you about what's going on inside this building besides the amazing burn survivors that you're actually meeting and all of the staff. There's a few other things that we need to put together in order for them to do the job they do. So let's talk about compassionate use. You're going to see a picture of someone I personally know and absolutely adore, and that's Kristen Lipinski. There she is. She is one of our absolute incredible warriors, and she's actually climbing with the entire burn incredible family that's on their way. I got a chance to spend some time with her in the Grand Canyon. Now, if you notice on her shoulder, that's because she had something that's, well, not quite a burn. It's known as necrotizing fasciitis, which is the flesh-eating bacteria. But because this actually individual spray that's known as NuCell on the skin, which is used for burns, it actually can be used if done with compassionate use and the actual burn center and the doctors know how to actually do this. It can then be approved very quickly for someone with a life-threatening disease or illness, much like Kristen did. And thanks to that, that NuCell was administered to her. And as you can see by that smile, an incredible, vibrant personality. She's off climbing the Grand Canyon and soon to be off to Mount Kilimanjaro to do the same. She's one of our absolute heroes. heroes, and she is a reason why we give here tonight. So let's talk a little bit more about the actual Arizona Burn Center and what they've been going from and where they're going to. Since, well, Christy's here with us, I had a chance to chat with her. So what you're looking at now is someone with occupational therapy, the fine motor skills and things they're trying to do. There's a window that you'd have to work with individuals because, well, they need to have to be on pain medication in different ways so that you can actually work with them. And one's on the first floor, the others are on the 7th. That's a big distance to cover. Working with pediatrics, it's just a few rooms at the back of the hall. There's a lot you're going to hear about tonight because they've done unbelievable work. But what they're going to do with your help is going to blow your mind. So let's talk about $5,000. I'm going to show you a mock-up of what's going to happen, and it kind of looks like a great gym, but it's so much more than that. I want to talk about the fact that they need 8 treadmills. That's right, 8 treadmills, 8 of different actual fitness cycles, the stationary bikes, different extenders and arm curls, all these different things that might look to you like a gym, but there's more to it than that. When I first worked with them a year ago, I came to find out how quickly the individuals that have suffered through a burn are encouraged and actually brought by the team to start immediately any type of physical and occupational therapy. Why? Well, it's simple. That scarring and the different joints, they're actually going to contract. And once they contract, by the time you start healing, you're going to have less range of motion. The faster that you can get an individual that's gone through a burn to actually start these therapies, the better their quality of life is going to be. And one thing you're going to see by both not only the stories you're hearing today, but the stories you've heard in the past, is that it's far much more than just surviving a burn. It's about the quality of life, just like the doctor told you, bringing them back to where they once were. So this particular level is $5,000. That's the equipment that has to be put inside the room while that building's getting done, because that is where the healing begins and the actual quality of life comes back. So I have news for you. I have a screen right over here. We have a few people helping me out. We have $5,000 in right now from Tim O'Neill. So for those of us that are in the studio, how about giving Tim a big round of applause? Tim O'Neill, thank you so much for $5,000, and keep those bidding coming through. And I'll shout out different names as we go through this. But most importantly, what we want you to do is understand just how impactful these donations are. Yes, they are a 100% tax-deductible gift, but more importantly, they're about giving hope, not only to those people that are actually the burn survivors, but their family, their friends, and the people that work with them on this journey. So the next one is $2,500. However, before I go there, it looks like we're about to get a donation right up here of $5,000, which is an incentive gift. Let's hear it for Bart Patterson. Bart, thank you so much. Incredible. So, and this next part of $2,500, I'm going to show you another mock-up. This one has to do with hydrotherapy. Now, hydrotherapy, as Christy was telling me, right now there is one actual hydrotherapy bath. That is a critical bath, not only for when someone has itching, burning, inflammation, bacterial, all of that. You'll see almost like a large bath-like sink that is there to treat the wound and to actually dress it. There's one of those for 17 rooms right now. The idea in the new facility is to have up to 4 of them, having more of the equipment and also more centrally located so that it's easier to access and in a more rapid and effective manner. This is a chance for you to actually be a part of this as we build the Arizona Burn Center, not only for those of us here in Arizona, but across the globe. So here we are, $1,000 just came in from Anna Marie Palumbo. I know Anna Marie, how are you? Congratulations. Thank you so much. And we have something, although I'm not allowed to tell you who it is, a very special doctor from Valleywise has just given $25,000. That's right. We just have a $25,000 gift, which is amazing. I also want to point out that Dr. Caruso's wife has just given $100. Diane, we know you're out there. We so hope you enjoy the memoriam for Dr. Caruso. That's $100 there. And keep them coming. We have $250 coming in from Elliot Wolf, and $100 just came in from Jay Spector. That's the beauty of this virtual space, is we still get a chance to interact with you. So let's talk about something that's very, very important. Right now, as I mentioned, there's a few rooms at the back of the hall that's pediatrics. Christy was explaining when you have pediatrics and you're doing different therapies, it might mean you're on the floor walking down the hall. There's not a lot for or area for pediatric children. Many of you might remember our last year's hero, which was Isabella, which if you're out there watching, is one of my favorite humans, absolutely. And another young woman that's climbing not only the Grand Canyon, but off to Kilimanjaro. Now, you might remember that our young Isabella was there treated, but she's just a kid. And if you can think about some of the treatments that are going on when people actually have their dressings being changed or their skin's actually scrubbed, that's excruciating. It's not something that an adult wants to actually see a child go through, or a child wants to hear an adult's reaction to that. So Here you come with the answer, a new separate area of that floor that's strictly for pediatrics. That's right, it's time now to show you a little bit about what it would look like for the pediatric kids and show you a slide of one of our favorite kids, which will come up right now. It's so important that people understand that burns come from very small infants all the way through adulthood, and it is imperative that we have an area to treat these children that allows them to still be just that. They're children, and many of them will spend up to 4 months or more inside the Arizona Burn Center, and it's because of you that they'll still be able to have, well, that joy and that dignity of being a child. This is the $1,000 level, and right now we just have $1,000 coming in from Karen King Brooks. Thank you, Karen, so much at $1,000. I have another $1,000 that's coming in from Stephanie Olson, and we just got $2,500 from Neil Thomas. Thank you, Neil, so much. Going back to the top, and just so you know, there's also teams you can donate to, and right now, Team Joy is actually in the lead, and Team Joy is actually being sponsored by Kitchell, and they're in the lead with $15,000. So let's hear it for Team Joy. Now, we also have $500 that's come in from Rachel Dubridge, who's Access Pro Medical. Rachel, thank you so much. And $1,000 from Sherry Stotler has just come in. These bids are flying through here right now. We want to keep them coming in. $100 from Scott Sharples just came in. $250 from James Thomas, and of course we have $500 from Kate Fassett as well. Still coming through all of them. So let's talk a little bit about what this money's doing at this next level at $500. You know, this is a teaching hospital. That's right. Not only for those that actually have an interest in burn, but even for those that are actually just going through their residency, 13 different actual medical areas you can study, but one, they have to go through an entire area or actual time frame of the Arizona Burn Center. There's also a fellowship that's done there for people that are specifically, and you know what? They have to be trained. At this particular level, it's a chance at a kit that actually sort of almost remakes a burn. In other words, it's an actor that can come in with blisters, burns, and different, because these are extremely delicate cases to be handled. And you're going to see a picture that comes up right now of one of our actual, well, one of the beauties that actually worked there with a small child. You have to learn how to do this. It's different for an adult than it is for a child, changing dressings, handing burns. These are severe cases, and any burn for anyone is a severe trauma. So, of course, training, which always is part of the Valleywise way, is imperative here at the Arizona Burn Center, and because of you, that's being done. So, right now we have coming in $100 from Barbara Harding just came in. Barbara, thank you so much. And we have $100 from D. Michelle Beaton, and guess what? We just got $50 from Tiara Del Rio, who is a burn survivor. Tiara, we see you, and we appreciate you so very much. So one of the next things I want to tell you about is something that I know that right now, Christian and Stephanie, you're out there. I haven't had a chance to meet you, but I tell you what, everyone in this studio is either read your book or actively reading it or buying it here today. We want to congratulate you not only on all that you've actually been through and sharing it with us, but thank you for writing it down, creating a New York Times bestseller, and here's your opportunity for all of you at home. That's right, Stephanie has actually penned Heaven is Here, documenting not only the burn and the accident, but also their life before and the amazing quality of life for where they are today, including that new little child that is not so little anymore, along with this book. $250 is your donation right now, and that means that you're going to get an autographed copy, that's right, from Stephanie Nielsen herself, and mailed to you. Heaven is Here. It is an absolutely incredible read, and there's also an audiobook out there for those of you that are thinking about that. But if you donate here tonight at $250, you get an autographed copy from Stephanie herself that will be mailed to you, and a chance for you to be a part of the difference that is the Valleywise different and the Arizona Burn Center. So even when you're down to $100, you know what? It goes a long way at the Arizona Burn Center. And I want to tell you a special story about a little boy. That's right. I want to introduce you to Weston. This little guy right here actually got a chance to leave the hospital, and these are the pictures of him leaving last month in March. After 4 months, just 3 to 4 years old, fell into a fire pit. And this is an example of why we need that pediatric area, but also why there are burn kits that go home, whether you're an adult or a child, to help that continuum of care post actual time at the Arizona Burn Center. It is so much more, just as Dr. Foster explained to you. This is probably one of the most traumatic and horrific experiences a human can go through. But because of the Arizona Burn Center, it does not have to mean the end of life or the end of the quality of life for anyone. So with your help, we're going to continue to do this. We have $104 that just came in from Kevin Scott. We also have $250 $750 from Stacy Wilson, and those gifts keep coming in. But because those gifts are coming in, I want you to take a look and a listen now to find out just what the impact is, not only to the immediate, but what life looks like down the run.
Well, the first time that I actually really saw myself was actually in the burn unit in Salt Lake City. I mean, this is 5 months from the initial accident. Christian came and sat down with me on the hospital bed and said, "We can do this together." So we started, and I said, "No, I think I need to do this alone." And he said, "Okay, promise me you'll do it?" And I said, "Yeah, I promise." So he left, and I sat there for 15 minutes. I was already crying, and I remember just kind of flipping the mirror over. I started with my chin and got to my lips, and then I saw my eyes, and I saw light in my eyes, and I knew I was going to be okay. It was a turning point in my recovery that changed everything for me, was to see my eyes, see the light in my eyes, and the light that I had, and the light that I could still give to others. There were times when I would think, nobody can do this for you. I had lots of people supporting me and loving me and helping me, but I had to do it. And it's one of the best lessons that I have learned in my life and will continue to guide me in my life, that we have to go through the hard times to really fully enjoy and experience the good times.
I was 6 months to the days when we were all under one roof again, and we started sleeping in the same bed, and the kids were in their beds. Our kids probably don't recognize to this day how huge of a motivation they were in Stephanie's and my recovery.
My kids, that was really hard. This was a huge change for all the kids.
At night, we would finally lay down and we would talk sometimes through the night. You know, not only about the accident, but how we were feeling and how we were going to get through this, what life was going to be like. And some days she was the strong one carrying me, and other days I was the strong one carrying her.
I always say, you know, Christian married my heart. And when hard times come, you want someone to love your heart. That's why I fell in love with him that second he walked in to my dad's office. We found each other's hearts, you know. It's not just a silly story, it's a true love story. It's real. And it's what got me through.
I think every patient teaches us something. Stephanie's lesson for me was my role as a mom. We model as parents, we model as wives, and for Stephanie, she modeled how you're going to get through adversity, and she did it with such grace. And I always thought to myself, I hope that I can model this for my girls the way she's modeling for her girls.
She has shared everything through the blog, through her book, through all of her speaking that she's done and they've done everywhere. Good, bad, otherwise, openly, honestly. It's the ongoing transition of this family, the ongoing recovery and thriving from surviving and rebuilding and growing their family.
Charlotte was a miracle. She's our miracle baby. And there's a place inside my heart that is reserved for my burn people. Dr. Caruso, Dr. Lettieri, this was a group effort. I'm a group effort. And I'm here because of them.
You know, there's still a hole in our heart for the loss of our friend Doug. But we feel stronger. We feel, having been through something like this, it helps us to have perhaps more empathy that maybe we wouldn't naturally have. Perhaps we've proven that equipment that we can do hard things.
In addition to really being an unbelievably difficult physical and emotional journey, there's also a spiritual journey that goes along. A lot of burn patients with really large burns come out on the other end, not only back to normal, but also with something special, something different. And I think that's true for the Nielsen's. And I'm glad that I get to be part of that, and I'm glad I get to at least see a glimpse of that and sometimes feel like I get a piece of that. Because it's bigger than what we are.
I believed that I wasn't alone. I believed that my prayers were being heard, even in my darkest hours. I had been given this amazing body that had just recovered from something catastrophic, and I was still standing, and that's something. I don't need to tell that to anybody, but I do want my children to know that if I went through this accident, it was horrible. There were some dark, dark days, but I overcame, and so can you.
My divine purpose is to be a father and Stephanie's husband. That's how our relationship started. That's how we survived this life-changing event, and that's what will carry us through forever.
My divine purpose is to be a mother. I think a mother includes all living things. It's anybody, anything. And if I raise good human beings that can pay it forward, carry it on, then all of this was worth it.
I don't know which segment of that movie is better, but the final one reminds me that after all of that, she still sets a better table than I do and that you do. She's absolutely amazing. So thank you, Stephanie, for sharing your family and your husband and your beautiful home. You are truly incredible. I'm holding a copy of the book. And like Tish mentioned, for a donation of $250, you'll get a signed copy, which is pretty cool. Because I just want to say that I know her. Thank you, everyone, for making this such a wonderful night. To the doctors we interviewed in studio, to all the staff that gave their time, and the great information that we used to create this night. You guys are inspiring, and you're doing amazing work every day. Thanks so much.
Yeah, and just so you know, those donations keep coming in. Lee Benson, thank you for that $5,000 that you just gave. Incredible. And remember, $250 and you get this copy, although not this one because I'm taking this one.
Yeah, and this one's mine, so you can't have
this is
one
amazing. And thank you again, Stephanie Christian. Your story is absolutely one of the most compelling, and for Carrie and I, we see a lot, and this has been a very, very special show. So thank you all so much. Remember, if you've enjoyed the show and there's someone out there that maybe you think could use a little bit of inspiration or perhaps just a little pick-me-up through the pandemic, go ahead and share this link out. We're going to keep this show up there and continue to donate, but most importantly, just have a little inspiration and a hope thanks to Valleywise Health and the Arizona Burn Center. We'll see you next year, and have a good night.
Thanks.